May 7, 2018 of the Township, Washington Township Council. Adequate notice of the meeting was, you're not ready?
I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Adequate notice of the meeting was given in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by the Township Clerk to at least 2 newspapers in January, and this notice has been posted on the Township Bulletin Board and on the Township website. Please notify the Township Clerk for any disability requirements necessary for attendance at Mayor and Council meetings. The fire exits are located through the double doors to your right and through the door on your left. Please silence all cell phones. Would everybody please stand for a salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Here.
Councilman Casio?
Here.
Councilman Cummings?
Here.
Councilman Ullman?
Here.
Council President DeSena?
Here. This time we'll have a reading of the total list of bills.
The following is a list of bills paid since the last bill list was submitted, representing April 1st, 2018 through April 30th, 2018. Total 2017 reserve, $131,331.05. Total 2018 current, $3,459,934.27. Total capital fund, $8,248.68. Total animal control, $956.40. Total trust fund, $102,680.09. And total grant fund, $1,750.
Any comments, gentlemen?
I have a few questions, if I may.
I also do at the end of yours.
Okay, if you want to go first, that's
No,
fine.
you may go.
Unfortunately, I forgot my package, so I took Mike's with all my notes. But I noticed in the regular account, there were several payments that were made to the engineer regarding the intersection. And I just want to know if we received any sort of report from the engineer as to what work he's done or scope of work he's doing.
Peter, I get me too.
Okay. I don't remember, to be honest with you, if on the bill or invoice he itemized what he's done, but he did everything the county asked for. He's not currently doing anything on the intersection. I will look, and certainly if he didn't provide it, I'll ask him for it and send it to the council.
I could elaborate if you'd like, Mr. Mayor.
Of course.
It's for the survey work, Mr. Bruno.
Okay.
All the survey work that the county requested. To just further on that, the county has received the survey for the intersection that was required. I spoke to Mrs. Dargers 2 weeks ago. I let the mayor know and told him I would advise you. Tonight, I spoke with Mrs. Dargers. The survey's been received. They're currently placing the survey into the AutoCAD files, which will show the exact lines of the new intersection improvements.
Okay?
It's about a 1.5 to 2 month process for them to do that. So she was hoping for us to have it by early, July, August at the earliest. And then from there, we'll be able to make comments. And then they'll proceed with our engineer to come up with full plans for the intersection and go out to bid as soon as possible.
Also on the LoSAP payments, I assume that that's been schedulized and everything is properly funded so that we don't have any issues?
Yes, I believe that's the case, right, Marion, with LoSAP?
I don't know what he means by schedulized. I mean, it's
Well, I mean,
handled at
you know,
Joy's office.
Yeah, who gets what and the amount and the length of service, because we had a problem, I guess, last year or 2 years ago, when Mr. Ullman was looking at it?
Yeah, it's been tightened up greatly, since then, and I believe everything is the way it should be.
Anything else, Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, there is, but you can go. I left my copy home, so I don't have my notes. So if you want to go, you can go, and then I'll look at it.
I just had one question. I had reached out to Mary Ann about 2 engineering projects that appeared to be perhaps duplicative or on Robinwood. We have a grant to repave, and then there's also Suez work. I don't know if Mr. Azalina has replied.
Not as of yet, no.
Okay.
I don't think it'll be duplicative, because if they're going to repave as part of the work, which they agreed to repave when they do this type of work. We obviously wouldn't repave it. So Paul's in tune to both of them. He's been involved with the Suez project there. I think sometimes what they do is they become aware of roads you plan to pave, and then they want to get their work done. Otherwise, they're in trouble if you pave and then we have the moratorium. So it may not be a coincidence that they picked that project to do because they saw it on our list of roads to pave. I also, for some reason, feel like the improvements are at the top end of the street, and I think the bottom end of the street may have been targeted for, it wasn't the whole length of Robinwood that was getting resurfaced as part of the grant.
Okay.
So we definitely will make sure that we're not, utilizing part of the grant for, something that Suez is going to be doing.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Alban?
That was the only item I had.
Yeah, I
Mr.
just-
Cumming, hold on, Mr. Cumming, anything, Mr. Cumming, on
I'm just ducking under. What?
any bills paid?
No,
or-
sir.
Okay. Mr. Bruno, back to
Yeah,
you.
just on the advanced cleaning concepts, that's the new company, I assume?
Yes.
Are we happy with the services? We're going, I think that's a month to month, is that correct?
Yes, it is month to month, and I haven't heard that, well, let me put it this way. I believe the fire department had their second cleaning. I know the owner reached out to them for feedback. I didn't see it. People like to let me know when they're dissatisfied, and I haven't heard anything. I also haven't heard any negative from the police, and I've actually heard positive from them. And as far as town hall, it's a big improvement. There's little things where we have to sometimes remind them, but they're very responsive.
Okay. And TMM Associates, that's from 17 that we're paying them, so that's part of last year's budget or this year's budget? The 4,379?
I have to look at what's the,
Last year's budget.
Yeah, it says 17 on it.
Last year's
Yeah,
budget.
yeah.
Last year's.
I remember signing it, and it was the balance of last year. I think that cleaned up everything from last year for them.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Is that it, Mr. Bruno?
Yep.
Two things, Mary Ann. There's, my heart was actually happy that they bought parts for the brine truck, but I thought during budget that my brine truck was going to die a nice slowly death. And now I see we've bought parts for it. So does that mean we're gonna resurrect the brine truck? Because we just spent $1,000-something on parts for it. I'm hoping that my dream comes back of having the brine truck back, but I need some more information on that, please.
Peter can answer.
Yeah, I spoke to Bill about that, and he said, based on your comments for the money that they had to spend to get it working and keep it working, that they considered, it a good investment. Not that they're totally signed up yet, but they didn't, or not totally on board yet.
Fine, I'm a happy person. for that.
But they didn't want to rule it out in light of your comments.
Okay. Second thing is, I see Mr. Steel billed us for a few hours to go to Prospect Street. Does that mean the backflow preventers have been installed?
No, that was for being involved with the video inspection. It wasn't him, it was his assistant that went.
So the backflows still have not been installed?
No, because we don't have the agreements back
Oh,
from
I
everybody
thought last
yet.
meeting we had talked about, okay.
Yeah, I know
We
there
sent
was-
them out, and I don't know the status of getting them back, but I know they...
I believe we have one back. I'm aware of one because there was a note that the tools were going to be on vacation and please don't do it this week. But my understanding, Ken, are you aware of any others coming back?
I didn't say that now, so,
I know, but I thought maybe you were the person who was told when they were there.
no,
Okay.
no.
Yeah, what we did, just to bring everyone up to speed, we got the last few people on board, and we decided that everyone should sign the same version, so we sent that latest version out to all the residents, and it will supersede the previous ones they had signed.
The, my last line item was for Mr. Steel again. It says he was out at Mountain Avenue and the 2016 road program follow-up. I'm very concerned with the Mountain Avenue paving that was performed last fall. It cracked at Washington and Mountain as soon as it was put down. I know I called and I made several calls, and the cracks are wide open again as we speak. We need to get the contractor notified that it's unacceptable that we have a road that's 6 months old that has longitudinal cracks running hundreds of feet down it.
Okay.
These cracks are the ones I called you back when they put it down, Mary Ann, last year. When
I
wasn't on.
frankly have no recollection. I'm just
Yeah.
going to ask you who you spoke to.
I spoke to a bunch of people, because it happened as soon as they put the road down, and they came back and they ironed the cracks out, but the cracks are fully visible now as soon as you pull off the street. As soon as you pull onto Mountain and you look in the opposite lane, you'll see cracks running through.
It's at the intersection of Mountain and what?
And
Washington.
Washington. No, I'm sorry, Ridgewood.
Ridgewood.
Ridgewood. I said that
The
on
corner.
the wrong corner. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Ridgewood. That's all I have. Anything, Mr. Casio?
No.
Moving on, approval of the minutes for January 2nd, Sunday meeting minutes, January 2nd reorganization meeting minutes, March 19th budget meeting minutes, March 26th special meeting minutes budget, and the April 2nd budget meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Oman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. This time we'll have the report of the mayor.
Thank you, Mr. DeSena. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. The Green Team had a great outing on April 28th. Groups and individuals of all ages came out to help with the watershed cleanup. We removed over 2,000 pounds of debris from along the banks of the Musquapsink Brook and Lincoln Park. Special thanks to Nicholas Market's Food Town for supplying snacks and beverages to our volunteers. The team is also actively pursuing grants for their mission. The intersection I won't repeat because between Mr. DeSena and I, we covered the status on that. Firehouse, the fire chief, director, fire board, myself, and Councilman Cumming had another meeting with the architect last week. The architect should have pricing to us within the next couple of weeks. That info will be shared with the full council upon receipt and review by the fire board. Shared services. After a long hiatus, we have the shared services agreement with Ridgewood on the agenda for approval tonight. Assuming the resolution is passed by the council, I will immediately sign it. It will be nice to have another option for our vehicle and small engine repairs and maintenance. Civilian dispatching. We are getting closer to our goal of having a fully civilianized dispatch desk. We currently have 3 full-time and 1 part-time civilian operating the desk. Commuter parking. We're very close to announcing something. A small issue came up that I need to discuss with the council tonight in our closed session. Habitat for Humanity. They held an event this past Saturday entitled Habitat International Women Build Program. I couldn't attend the event as I booked another event that same day and time. This annual event was created in partnership with Lowe's and is held during the week leading up to Mother's Day and is meant to spotlight the home ownership challenges faced by women. The Suez Women Build Team and the Habitat Bergen Women Build Committee attended the event and then worked on framing the 4 new homes that are currently under construction at the old VFW site in our town. Shredding and e-cycling. The event was very well attended, almost too well. It did create some traffic issues at times. We are looking into solutions to the problems for the future events. Little League Opening Day. I was proud to be invited to and speak at Opening Day. It shows our community at its finest. I'd like to recognize all the volunteers, sponsors, parents, and participants working together to make these programs such a success in our town. After a 30-year career, a postman that many of our residents had as their mail carrier, Ron Allen, retired last week. The people along his route sang his praises, and many of them made his last day a special one. Memorial Day parade change. Due to a request from our veterans, led by Steve Colrider, who is on the Memorial Day Parade Committee, we are shortening the parade route so that our veterans can march in and enjoy the entire parade route. Last but not least, I want to inform the residents of how many calls our town emergency responders made from January 1st to April 30th. The police had 2,915, the ambulance corps had 158, and the fire department had 65. When you see these volunteers, please thank them for their service. Everyone is busy, but remember that they are people just like you and I who find the time to serve their community and fellow residents in some capacity. Many hands make light work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Report of the council, Mr. Ullman.
I would just like to note that in our packet and in our email, we get quite a few residents who are highlighting issues and bringing complaints to the council's attention. And it was nice to receive a letter from John Comerford, who is a resident in the town and as well as a contractor. And one of his employees was involved in an accident, and he wrote to highlight the assistance of Corporal Riddell and Officer Ferranini, who assisted. So it was nice to receive that, and perhaps we at another meeting can recognize them more formally. The other was Dan Scuderi, our DMF superintendent. As you might imagine, in cleaning up the snow, there are incidents where residents' property may be damaged on accident, and it was nice to receive a letter from a resident recognizing Mr. Scuderi and the work he did in having some private property repaired. So I just wanted to thank those individuals, and that's the extent of my report.
Thank you. Mr. Conlon?
Yes, sir. On Saturday, April 21st, we were at Clark Field for the opening of baseball with many towns, the town's younger residents and their children who were playing ball with coaches and officials such as Council President DeSena and Director Dan Scuderi. I was pleased to attend in the company of Mayor Calamari and Police Chief Hooper and Fire Chief Incetta. It was a nice morning. Nice to see all the children out. Fertilization and chemical treatment of our playing fields is about to begin this week, and the sprinklers should be turned on also. This is after we took 24 soil samples at the 3 fields in town besides Clark Field, specifically Memorial and then Gardner and so on. The program was developed specifically for our turf in those playing fields that'll give us the greatest benefit with the least expenditure of tax money. We're looking forward to tremendous results from this, and these are state-trained and licensed applicators, which is for the safety of the children playing on those fields. I mailed off completed applications for the PSE&G Direct Install program last Friday. This program provides for energy audits of the lighting, heating, and cooling in our buildings. After the audit, I've seen PSE&G send in their contractors to completely convert the lighting, for instance, in the municipal building, to energy-sipping LEDs while keeping the existing fixtures in the regularly 2x4 ceilings, constructed ceilings, without disruption to those. The result is an energy reduction of 90 to 95% in the lighting bill, and the maintenance will be unnecessary for the next 20 years. There was a Green Team meeting a week ago Thursday, which I attended as the council liaison, and I will say here, I'll let Mr. Sears expound on this. I was under the impression he was going to give a report tonight. I will not bore you further, and will anticipate Mr. Sears' report at some point in time. But there was a large agenda he went down during that. Last Saturday, I spent the day in class at Rutgers at New Brunswick in the company of Mr. Scuderi and Mr. Sears and forestry. For me, it was a great review, and for all of us, it was tremendous education on forestry while we apply for a grant to clean up our parks and our woods. I was privileged to attend the architects meeting at the firehouse, and it looks wonderful. They're giving us several options for either renovation, rebuilding, or building a building. And they've a lot of expertise, a lot of good thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon. Mr. Bruno?
Yeah, no, not much. Happy that tonight we'll be putting the budget behind us. Again, the last 2 years, we had tax municipal decreases, and this year we had no increase, no decrease, so we were able to maintain the taxes at zero, which is good news. And once we adopt it, then hoping to get on to the business at hand in the town so we can keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cascio.
It looks like everything's been covered again. It's nice to be at the end. The only thing I would like to add is that we have a new vehicle on property that we got through a federal government program called the 1033A program. Lieutenant Skinner helped get a Humvee for us in case of emergency. It's always good to have a high water vehicle. It doesn't cost the town anything, so it's always nice to have the federal government come back and let us use some of our tax dollars locally. So I want to thank Lieutenant Skinner for that, and that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Cassia. Quick report, thank you for everybody that did attend opening day of baseball. It was a great honor to be with you guys and celebrate the day. I'm glad to see progress at the Memorial Field with the new fertilization program and also at the intersection and the firehouse, of course. I know I was invited to the meeting, however, T-ball called and I couldn't make it. Sorry. I hope to be at the next one. That's all I have for tonight, and again, thank you, everybody. Moving on to the agenda, mayor's appointment, none tonight. Presentations, none. I'd like a motion to open the meeting to the public at this time.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. If anybody would like to come up and address the council at this time, please do so. Mrs. Ritter?
Good evening. Oh, Elizabeth Ritter, 699 Jacqueline Road, Washington Township. A bunch of moms were at the planning board meeting 2 weeks ago, and so this is really all of us collaborating, and this is what we'd like to bring to your attention. So sometimes it says we, sometimes I say I. It's a group of us. We are writing to ensure that you are aware of a smoke shop application that was presented to the Washington Township Planning Board during the April 25th open meeting. During this meeting, Eddie Margin's cedar smoke application and the Association Planning Board report were partially and publicly reviewed. Mr. Margie had negotiated a lease in the town shopping center and is seeking permission from the Planning Board to operate. He is the owner-operator of 3 smoke shops opened within the last 4 years in Lodi, Rochelle Park, and Dobbs Ferry, New York. Mr. Margie attempted to address expected concerns related to the reputation of a smoke shop, offering to write into the lease and application that he would not sell marijuana if and when the state of New Jersey legalizes it, and agrees to limit sales of cartoon-themed drug paraphernalia which target our children. We do not believe that this would prevent a future retraction if business conditions changed, nor do we believe that this would prevent similar stores from attempting to operate in our town. This has many residents concerned. We understand that there may be some difficulty in finding a legal challenge to the application given the current ordinances. In the short term, we are asking for your support in obtaining more information before this application is approved and to provide education on the potential issues. We should seek out opinions from various experts in the health, education, and law enforcement fields on the impact to the health and well-being of our community of selling vaping supplies and drug paraphernalia, understanding that there is potential for marijuana to soon become legalized in the state of New Jersey. As part of a broader strategy, we are asking for your assistance in changing the town ordinances relating to smoke, vape, and legalized marijuana sales. We should look to towns that are being proactive in this preparation for legalization of marijuana as a guide to how we should navigate. Towns like Allendale have stopped a smoke shop application. They have already passed ordinances that say no vape shops and are planning to pass one that will not allow marijuana sales. Some of our initial concerns are as follows. Number one, a health concern. Vaping is on the rise in our schools and is linked to cancer. The FDA is seeking more information on the marketing tactics of e-cigarettes for targeting children. The devastating impact of drugs in our community assuming the sale of drug paraphernalia, there will be drugs nearby. Our second concern is the location. These types of shops are better suited in areas that are less residential and not near bicycle and foot traffic. These are not ideal near our schools and libraries, nor where people are walking about with young children. This type of restriction could be added to a town ordinance. We are also concerned with public safety. It will need to be determined if there is sufficient police support for any potential expected increases in incidents from loitering or underage attempts to purchase. It will take some time to develop social norms and a balance in appropriate laws and regulations. This type of restricted 21 and over shop is often compared to a liquor store, with the glaring difference that alcohol has been legal since the 1930s and has had time to evolve. Washington Township may not benefit from being an early adopter. Homeowner values. We want to consider the potential for negative impact to homeowner values. This type of business will detract from the positive perception of a town and will likely not attract young families. We will not want to put risking the alienation of a single business owner at the expense of losses to all township homeowners, and also to the best of the members of our little shopping center. The members of this community are prepared to plan boycotts and to get signed petitions to discourage Mr. Margie. However, without an ordinance change, we understand it may not be permanent. We would request that you review the Cedar Smoke application, the planning board meeting minutes, and the report written and reviewed by the planning board. We would request your support in reviewing the current ordinance and creating new ones as needed. We all need to consider that this type of business will hurt our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ritter. Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time?
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. I'd like to thank Mrs. Ritter because there have been other people who have those same concerns. It's just a shame she couldn't get more of the women she was talking for to come to the meeting, because that's, I would think, a little bit more of an impact, even though her words were wonderful. One of the things that I have to ask today is the resolution, the mayor did make mention of it, with a Village of Ridgewood for vehicle and equipment repair. Now, I think the mayor did say that this is not an exclusive with Ridgewood, is it?
It is not.
So, I may be wrong, but I don't understand shared services. I looked up NJSA and I read the whole thing about what a shared service is. This is just an agreement. I mean, don't we have an agreement with Bergen County to do the same thing?
We have an agreement with Paramus also.
That's what I'm, yeah, my next
We have,
question was the one
well,
with
depending
Paramus.
on the size of the vehicles, different
No, I understand
facilities
that.
can handle the different
But it's not
vehicles.
actually a shared service then, it's just an agreement, and I understand that. I just find that it's a very difficult thing, because nowadays when the governor, and Christie was the first one that started with shared services.
Can you lower the mic, Mary? Thank you.
Everybody kept saying shared services, shared services. You know, it's good, nice to have an agreement, and there's no problem with that, but I think using the word shared services maybe should not be used in this type of situation. Also, my next question is, when Mr. Cummings and the DMF superintendent and the head of the director of this DMF started this, or formed a subcommittee, or were formed for a subcommittee, I thought that subcommittee was just going to be to do an immediate fix right now, quickly, to get the football program up, and that long-term would be later. I mean, doing something with the lights, I don't know, I'm a little off. There was a large committee that talked about that for a year. And now, you know, if that committee's not in service anymore, I guess the new committee, subcommittee is taking over.
Mrs. Osmond, I don't mean to cut you off, but we need to adopt the budget. It's 8 o'clock.
Confused.
And statutorily we have.
We're not talking about the same lights.
No, he's
No, but-
talking about lights in town hall, not field lights.
Oh, you're not talking about?
Yeah,
Not at all.
It's different. Yeah, I was going to get to that, but
Yeah.
we need to,
How much more does she have left?
she has 3 minutes.
All right, let her finish the 3 and then we'll do our budget.
Okay, sorry.
But, you know,
The lights Mr. Cumming was talking about was an assessment of this building and our other facilities.
Oh, okay.
To replace LED
fluorescent
lights,
lights
the
in this
fluorescent
building.
tubes in all the offices, like.
okay. And
assembly.
I was just wondering about that because you made, you
No,
know.
it is not
Nothing
field,
to do
it is
with
not
the
field
field
lighting.
lights.
Okay, thank you very much. I do appreciate it.
Anything else? I mean, I didn't even.
No, no, no,
I'm
that's.
fertilizing. I'm fertilizing. No
We
lights.
can come back to this.
We'll come back to the open public meeting, and you can come back up. Thank you.
All right, so now you're going to ordinances, the second reading.
I'm going to ordinances, adoption of second reading, ordinance number 18-04, calendar year 2018, ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank. Resolution number 18-200, authorizing second reading and opening for public hearing for ordinance 18-04.
So moved.
So moved. Seconded.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes.
Public hearing.
Motion to,
You have a public
Yeah.
hearing now, you ask
Would it-
anybody else.
would any, I gotta ask the audience, right? Would anybody like to come up and discuss ordinance 18-04 at this time? Seeing nobody, can I have a motion to close public hearing for ordinance 18-04?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes. Motion to adopt ordinance number 18-04 at second reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes. Go to the budget resolution. Budget resolution number 18-201, waiver the reading in full of 2018 budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes. I would like to now open the meeting. Can we go back to public discussion,
No,
gentlemen?
no, no.
Wait.
No, you're still budgeting.
sorry.
Now you're doing the public hearing on the budget.
Oh, public hearing on the 2018 Township budget.
May I have a motion to open the public
Motion to
hearing?
open the public hearing on the 2018 budget,
So
please.
moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes. If anyone desires to be heard regarding the 2018 Township budget, please raise your hand to be recognized. Come forward to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. A copy of the 2018 budget introduction was available at the Township of Washington Free Public Library, and the copies of said budget were made available to the public. Would anybody like to come up at this time? Yes, Mrs. Osmond.
Mary Ann Osmond, 960 Adams Place. I just want to say thank you, council, for a very nice budget. And, you know, I did look at my budget and I went over all the figures and some of them seem a little tight, but thank you very much. It was a very well thought out budget. You did a great job.
Thank you, Mrs. Osmond. Thank you,
Thank
gentlemen. And Mary. And Mary Ann. Hey.
Thank you.
Everybody pulled their weight. Anybody else like to come up and discuss the budget? Seeing no one else, a motion to close public hearing on the 2018 Township budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes. Resolution 18-202, adoption of the 2018 Township budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSantis?
Yes.
You want to open,
No, you're in the budget.
go back to.
I can go back to public now. Mrs. Osmond, if you'd like to come back up. You sure?
Yeah.
Anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time?
I think Mary Ann's tired walking up.
Tony Plantamura, 808 Robinwood Road. I concur with Ms. Ritter, who got up here and stated about vaping shops. I find it funny that at this point in time, everybody's so concerned about smoke shops because somebody in this state voted for our new governor who supports legalized marijuana without considering how it's going to affect communities and police departments and how they're going to actually deal with this problem. But I support what she's trying to do. I want to make note of the fact that there's been a couple of articles in the paper recently about anti-nepotism, and I want to know if this town is going to adopt anything new as far as anti-nepotism. It says that there's a hiring and appointing family members to town or school district positions doesn't suggest anything illicit, but residents and good government advocates have complained for years that genealogy has seeped into public employee hiring across North Jersey's boroughs, towns, and cities. Such practices lead to corruption, possibly in the appearance of impropriety. So I don't know if there's anything in the future about this town.
Mr. Plantamore, I believe we have an ordinance in place already for nepotism.
Yeah, I never read it, so I didn't know if there was anything to tweak on that. I will make a suggestion, though. When I was a police officer, I found the biggest type of nepotism exists within chiefs' departments. So my suggestion is, I don't really understand how chiefs' associations can operate because I find them filled with nepotism and politics. I was not selected as a police officer in this town, even though I think I was the best candidate back in the 70s. People came on this town that were connected to somebody else in this town. So I don't know if there's any kind of push in the state to ever consider something like that, but I believe all police departments should be civil service. It weeds out a lot of the nepotism and politics that I was confronted with, so it's just a suggestion. The other thing is I want to get back to the subcommittee that Mary Ann talked about. So I heard that there was a subcommittee formed by you, Mr. Calamari, and I want to know, and Mr. Poller, if you can answer this, what happened to our committee that took over a year of our time to formulate certain ideas and come up with alternatives for a turf field in this town? What happened to that subcommittee? Because I thought our committee, I thought a subcommittee is supposed to report to a committee.
I might have been mistaken in calling it a subcommittee. It was a committee, as stated earlier, just to get the field into a decent playing field or fields to get us through this year, while long-term planning is still going on for mostly Memorial Field, but all the fields. And let me say, it was brought up, and I hope to get started in the future with Mr. DeSena's help, Mary Ann's help, an RFQ or an RFP for organizations to provide us with their opinion as to a long-term solution for all of our fields, to analyze playing time on them and, do that study over again, as was requested by the committee.
So does it deal with new members on a new committee, or are you going to go back to the committee that you had?
Right now, I have no intent of changing the body of that committee, but it is dormant until we get that study in, because I believe there was nothing else to do, that the committee kind of agreed on that's what they all asked for, and so there's nothing to do until we get that study.
We didn't ask for a quick fix on the field with sod. I know that.
Well, I know that, and right now, there's no intent to do a big sodding. It might be piece sodding, but there's nothing on the table that we're going to sod an entire field or anything like that. It's just to get the fields into decent playing shape for the activities coming up for them.
I don't know if you're aware, but I heard through a couple of parents that they have an artificial turf field in Ridgewood, and when we had that flood a couple of weeks ago, that the field was damaged so bad that lacrosse in this town the Ridgewood people can no longer, the people in this town cannot play at Ridgewood Field because of the damage, and I'm assuming other towns can't. So I don't know if that has any effect in any of your feelings about artificial turf. We talk about what's going to happen with the field and the
Mrs.
cost.
Plantamore, the Ridgewood Field is built in a floodplain.
It's on flat surface, right?
It's in a floodplain.
A floodplain. Oh,
It
that
has
was.
been
that was smart.
devastated. This is the 5th time it's been devastated.
Are you serious?
Yes, so.
Oh, boy.
We cannot compare a turf field in a normal condition to that field, because we're talking
It makes you
apples
wonder
and-
why it was even done.
I can't speak for the village of Ridgewood, but it's the 5th time it's been devastated from storms, so I can't speak for the Village of Ridgewood.
Okay, and then the last thing I want to bring up is, I want to know if there's anything new about the change of form of government, because we had talked about that, and I know you had voiced your concerns, possibly changing the form of government. Is there anything new on that? Because if not, we're going to form a committee and we're going to do a referendum. So we need to move this along, and I also want to ask Mr. Cassio, last time, you allowed people to come to your offices
You have 1 minute, Mrs.
to sign petitions. Is that still okay to do that if we form things like that?
If I guess if there is a committee out there or paid citizens that want to do it, I'm open to giving the citizens a voice. You know,
Okay.
again, it has to come from the citizens. It can't come from the council. I don't think the council wants to actually, do the.
I'm so confused on that. Mr. Pollard, the council can't do a change
Yeah, we
of form
can,
of government?
but I think and I don't want to speak for the council, I don't think we're choosing to go that route.
Okay. It's very
If I'm wrong,
frustrating.
anyone correct me, but.
No, I would concur with you, Dr. Cassio.
Let the citizens decide if that's what they want to do and let them form a petition.
Okay. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Polinsky. Anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time?
Cynthia Cannon, 804 Manhattan Avenue. What's the status going on with Ground Zero on Pascack Road? Have we had access into that house?
The wells, you mean? Yes.
And?
Yes, we went to court, got a court order, and...
It was sampled
and
last
they were sampled
Thursday.
on May the 4th.
And what are the results and when will we
Well, I
see
don't
the
know what it was.
analysis?
It's going to take a few weeks to get the
It was
analysis.
done on May 4th, today's May 7th, so I don't know what I don't think we've gotten any results yet,
Okay.
but they got it. Yeah.
And you'll be sharing that at a public meeting, or we have to Oprah the request?
Until we get them back, Mrs. Cannon, I don't know.
In view of the fact that another one of my neighbors has cancer, I would like to really get an idea of where this plume is going.
They are public records, so
Okay.
I don't have an issue, I don't think anybody else up here has an issue with releasing them at this time. You know, we've been waiting years for them. You can, like you said, you can
It's
Oprah
ridiculous how long
them.
it's been.
Well, we had issues that we had to take care of in the courts to get it done, and it's been resolved at this
Well,
point.
I realize for that, but the fact of the matter is that how many years was it before the
can't-
township moved on
I
testing
can't
the
speak,
well?
I can't speak for prior administration, but we
I
made
know,
it, we
I
made it
realize that.
Thank
Thank you for trying to act on it, though.
We
and
acted on it
I do appreciate
as soon
that.
as we could in January, and that's,
I'll be back. I'll ask again. Thank you.
I'd say we're with a month away from getting a report at least.
Okay. So we'll have the one from the DMF and the one from down below.
They tested all the wells on
Yes,
Thursday.
Okay, thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up and address the council at this time? Seeing nobody, can I have a motion to close, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yeah.
Councilman Cassio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
Just before we move on, I just have a question for the mayor. Just to clarify, we are doing some work at Memorial Field that you would classify as tactical, fertilizing, the sprinklers, potentially spot sodding, but there's no other plans at the moment for that field?
For additional sodding, you mean?
For additional sodding or additional work until a larger study is possibly commissioned, sort of the NKW?
MKW, yes.
Sort of a revisit of that?
Yes, that's correct. Councilman Cumming, you concur with that, your thing is to get it through this playing season?
My assignment is to get the grass as playable as possible to get through the summer.
Right.
And to that end, we're doing fertilization, and I'm going to grow some grass.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify,
Yeah,
or
no-
be
no-
clear.
Legal kind.
that
Nothing long-term until the
It's a
study is
tactical
done.
solution?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think the intent, Mr. Mayor, is to issue a request for qualifications, Mr. Ullman, sometime in the summer months, to have a consultant that's well-versed in field utilization and different scenarios we can run through to improve our fields, just like we did at the firehouse.
Okay.
That's the, right, Mr. Mayor?
I believe so, yes.
Thank you. Anything else before we move on, gentlemen? Ordinance is continued. Introduction, first reading, ordinance number 18-05. Ordinance providing for the improvement of the intersection of Washington Avenue and Pascack Road in and by the Township of Washington in the County of Bergen, New Jersey, and making an appropriation of $400,000 from the Capital Improvement Fund of the Township therefore. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 1805 at first reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Resolution number 18-203, authorizing publication of ordinance number 18-05 and schedule public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Ordinance number 18-06, bond ordinance appropriating $1.3 million and authorizing the issuance of $1.237 million in bonds or notes of the township for various improvements or purposes authorized to be undertaken by the Township of Washington in the County of Bergen, New Jersey. Motion to introduce and pass ordinance number 18-06 at first reading by title.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
When do we ask questions?
You have to,
Got it.
We wait?
if you do questions now, yeah.
Discussion.
You can
Questions now.
discuss.
Yeah,
Before you do
I
roll
guess my question on this is, after reading it, are we going to do this as long-term bonds or short-term bans, or do we have a game plan on this? Not that we would do everything at once, but what is the game plan when we start doing capital projects and bonding for it?
Well, right now, I believe that the plan is to do bans consistent with the guidance or the opinion that Ashley's given you in the past. It's Ashley's call.
Mayor, is that the plan, Mayor?
Yes, in my communications with Marianne and Ashley, I believe that that is her plan.
We're gonna use bans?
Yes, but again, I would hope to analyze rolling these bans into more permanent bonds shortly, but I believe for this ordinance, the intent is ban.
Do we know the interest rates on either?
I can't speak to that right now. I mean, I'm usually not involved in that, but I think Ashley has been evaluating that. We do all know, if we're following the news, that rates are going up. But I thought that, we discussed this during budget, that she had a long-term plan about paying
Yeah,
off.
we did. I don't think we ever finalized it. There was a
No.
discussion, there was a schedule. Her game plan was to issue bans for 10 years. We were going to look at it. We never really finalized how we were going to do it because we have our bonds coming due shortly and then we have bans out there, so.
Correct.
I'm just asking the mayor what the game plan is.
It would be my intent, now that we're past the budget and all like that, to bring her into probably our next meeting to have this long-term discussion again, now that we're past the budget part.
And just so you know, nothing would really be done until the bonds mature in August. We do it at that time. So there's some time, and we do, because of the reserves, have cash flow in hand to enable us to proceed with projects before the
I
bonds are
understand.
issued.
I just want to make sure that we don't bond money and not use it and then be left with unfunded ordinances like we had 400,000 sitting around, and et cetera, et cetera. So we need to revisit when we're ready to bond
Absolutely
what
correct.
we're actually going to do and not do.
Yep.
Okay?
So if I can ask, is there a way to segregate these, or are we limited for each of these projects to the appropriated amount? For example, the item A is appropriated for $74K, item B is $180K. If item A were to go to $80,000, could we draw from item B? Or-
I don't believe in the accounting system where, I don't think that's the intent or spirit, especially because when you issue the bonds, the long-term debt, you're this document is part of the record, so to speak, or what is the offering package. So I believe that you have to stick within it. Also too, because the way they're broken down, my understanding is, it's based on the useful life. He groups things together that have a similar useful life, and that's why there are the different categories. The bond council is the one who determined how to group these, and I could tell you how they are grouped based on, it all ties back into the budget document. You could, I think, repurpose. You can repurpose them, but you would have to do an ordinance to repurpose them.
And the other question I have is, do we have a process or a method prospectively to segregate these in our accounting systems so we can get information on each one of them at any given time? And the reason I ask that is I know some of our old multi-purpose ordinances, it's not readily apparent, although it may be available. So I just want to make sure that we have the ability to track each of these projects rather than at the sort of the ordinance level of the bond total, but at each project.
Each project is assigned a unique account number in the system.
Okay.
And it's referenced by the bond, the multipurpose ordinance number, and then it has a description, and Ashley is the one who enters them. And that's how I've seen it
Okay.
done. I did it the first year, I think 2016, and then last year Ashley did it. So we want to track it too, because we have to watch. You know, you have to watch your soft cost and your hard cost. In the past, that hadn't been done. I saw some of that wasn't done. It was, but it wasn't exactly as I thought was as user-friendly. So we do that so that we have the opportunity, we realize what soft costs are available to apply to the hard costs once the projects come to fruition and if you need it.
And the last question, would any or all of these require further action by the governing body?
You mean to move forward on the project other than the second reading of the bond ordinance? I do not believe so, although I have to look at, no, they would, insofar as you have to authorize bids, depending on the dollar amount, if it's not a state contract, things of that nature. So road programs, yes, we have to authorize. In fact, I've been asking the engineer, who I believe is joining us later this evening, when we might have specs for various projects. I think he's got a lot of work on his plate, so he's getting to things as he can. I did remind him that we're doing the first reading, second reading's coming, and once that happens, we can go ahead and we could even start authorizing bids right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? Do we go on to the roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Resolution number 18-204, authorizing publication of ordinance number 18-06 and scheduling the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.
So who seconded the introduction in your notes?
The introduction for 1806 was you,
Who seconded it?
Mr. Cumming.
Yes.
Thank you.
Individual resolutions, none this evening. Consent agenda. All of the following items have been determined to have the unanimous consent of council and will be enacted in one motion. Should any item require independent consideration, any council member may have such item removed from the consent agenda. Resolution number 18-205, authorize refund of overpaid taxes, Block 3407, Lot 14, in the amount of $500. Resolution 18-206, authorize refund of balance of escrow monies, Block 2417, Lot 26, in the amount of $2,360. Resolution 18-207, authorize refund of balance of escrow monies, Block 2208, Lot 7, in the amount of $1,428.55. Resolution 18-208, authorize vehicle transfer from the fire department to the ambulance corps. Resolution 18-209, authorize shared services agreement with Village of Ridgewood for vehicle and equipment repair maintenance. Resolution 18-210, authorize the mayor to execute the solid waste service agreement with the BCUA for the period of June 1st, 2018 through May 31st, 2020. Resolution 18-211, authorize the mayor to execute the Green Communities Grant Agreement in the amount of $3,000. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Another question, Mr. DeSena, please?
Sure, Mr. Bruno.
Mary Ann, when we authorize the transfer of a vehicle from fire to ambulance, so fire is technically part of the town as a volunteer, and the ambulance is a private organization. Is this something that's actually on the books as an asset, or will we take it off, or how does that work?
Yes, we continue to insure it because we insure the ambulance corps vehicles, but it will be removed from any, if it is on our asset inventory. And I know it's on both the inventory and in Edmund, so it will be removed, yes.
Okay.
Did you have any other?
No.
Mr. Ullman?
Resolution 18-211, the Green Communities Grant. I tried to go through this, and perhaps I missed it in the 14 pages of grant application, but do we know what this is for specifically, or do we have a project?
I had no involvement whatsoever. They worked with Sue, I believe, on this.
I just got the final document.
Yeah. No, well, I had absolutely no involvement.
I'm pretty sure what it is, Michael, in my communication with the members of the Green Team, is it's a matching grant that enables us to come up with a long-term plan to be a sustainable green community, which as part of the Green Team's mission should have a long-term plan. And so there is grant money available for that report to be done. And also we do get points, which leads then to further grants from New Jersey Sustainable.
Okay, so back in the day, I was part of our Green Team, and I understand the points concept. You know, I guess it's committing the town to $3,000 because it's a match. You know, my concern is that, and I appreciate your explanation, it's that it's still not completely clear. Are we funding, you know, purchasing, you know, seedlings for a park? Are we
No, this is just to come up with that long-term study and report that an outside agency will assist us with.
Okay.
I believe also, Councilman Ullman, that it's, you can also do in-kind. It does not have to be a cash match. It could be an in-kind service as well.
Okay.
And I believe from what I've also been, some of the only explanation I had gotten was basically also helping with the trees, some of the trimming of the trees and, you know, determining healthy and non-healthy with the forestry.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mr. Ullman, I believe we did not include $3,000 to match this grant in our budget, so therefore it would have to be in-kind services that would make up the portion of the Green Team's part of the project, because I don't remember funding anything for this.
It's expressly noted on the application that it's in kind.
Yeah,
That's right.
but I just wanted to make that clear.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I omitted that part.
I looked for that. I didn't know.
I looked
had to make sure.
I looked at it also, and I remember it was in kind. It was all in kind that they had to do the work.
Okay.
That
Thank you.
helps everybody with that answer. Anybody else? Any questions before we roll call?
Just one comment, going back to 18209, and Mary Ann did bring it up with the shared service agreement. It's really a contract with another municipality. It doesn't really become a shared service in the true sense of the word.
I disagree with that. We are
I
using their
think-
employees as our, you know, as an extension of our township to.
Well, it's more of a contractual thing, and it's really, in my eyes, since I was on the shared service committee for a number of years prior, you know, it was more of, we're gonna use equipment, we're gonna use personnel, and we're really doing more of a payment as opposed to actually utilizing bodies and equipment in that aspect. But that's my opinion, and I'll just leave it at that. I'm gonna obviously agree to it. I don't care what you call it, it's a good bargain.
It's a bargain.
But in the grand scheme of things, it really isn't a shared service.
Oh, you know, when you look at it that way, we are using their garage, their
right.
lifts, all their tools.
And
their manpower, so.
And we're paying
paying,
for it.
absolutely.
When I go down to a garage and I pay to change my oil, it's a shared service. They're sharing my cab.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Casio.
if you want to look at it that way, that's fine. I'm
Yes,
okay
very
with
good.
it. Let's
Well, I have a
approve it.
question on, I don't think it has to be a barter agreement
Yeah.
for it to be a shared service, right, Ken?
Yeah, I agree. There's many agreements with the county that are like one way. The shared service is kind of more of a general term. You might call it a contract. I mean, an agreement's an agreement,
There you
but
go.
shared service is a general, more general term. And I think if you go around, you'll find other agreements similar to this being called shared services. But it's really form over substance. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
So,
Again, it's just a,
Yeah, it's a formality.
It's a distinction without a difference.
There you go. Lawyerese.
Although I must, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
At some of our Pascack Valley administrators' meetings, there is concern about what the state considers to be a shared service, because there are many agreements that towns can call shared services that the state will say, no, we are not going to call this a shared service. So like joint cooperative agreements, like things like that. So there is some merit to having it fit within the mold of what a designated shared service is, because there is some legislation that is being considered where towns will get penalized if they don't have certain shared services that have been approved by the state. I do know that at my last meeting, it was an issue that was raised. Holly Shapizi was present and was asked to run some interference, and because there had been, I guess, a submission, and people felt like they were banging their heads against the wall. So there is some merit to there being that has to fit within the confines of how the state defines a shared service.
Either way, we're getting a pretty good deal because we're doing it with other municipalities and we're saving money overall. So
Right.
whatever you want to call it,
Just gives us
fine.
another option
But,
among-
we do have an option to utilize, sources that we wouldn't have either way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the maintenance agreement, because it says repair and maintenance equipment. It's got amounts, hours, rates, and either party can terminate the agreement, so.
And I know the fire department's looking to take advantage of it as early as tomorrow.
Okay.
So can we pass this?
Roll call?
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Adjournment to conference agenda, motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yes.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes. Under current business, Mary Ann, I know she handed us the project tracker, beginning of the meeting.
If you want to take a look at it and let me know if you have any questions.
The grant writer, have we gotten anywhere with that?
No, what happened is, when we received the proposed agreement and the fee structure, we became aware that it's triggered some of the provisions under the local public contracts law. We were trying to figure out if there was a way, if there was some exception to that law. And I think, Ken, have you made a determination? My suspicion was that it had to be done by competitive contracting.
Right.
And therefore, we have to now we have to kind of go backwards and develop criteria to
Have we looked at
advertise.
neighboring municipalities that utilize our services to see how they do it?
There was some language in the document that might suggest you could do it another way, but in conferring with council, and I asked my instructor of my QPA course and a couple other people, and
And I've looked at too, and some towns do call this stuff
Yeah.
professional services, it's
Yeah.
not.
Okay.
Or-
'Cause I know in my
or-
former
or-
life,
or
she just got appointed every January.
Yeah, I know, but it really does not qualify for those kind of exceptions, the two exceptions.
Okay.
We even tried to run it by the auditor to see if he had an opinion of it, but it just, it doesn't, it's not gonna work the way they
Okay.
thought it would.
So we're gonna put something together to go out for bid for that, Mary Ann?
well, if you go out to bid, you're limited to dollar amount. I think you have to do what's called competitive contracting, which I've never personally done, and it's not that commonly done. I will endeavor to put something together, but you have to form a committee, that is, there's some, have you looked at it, Ken?
Yeah, I haven't done it either.
Yeah.
It's not easy. I
Yeah.
know that. There are not many people, it's not one of the favored ways of doing things.
What I plan to do is, with Susan's instance, because she has a lot of contacts in the county, is reach out to surrounding towns to see if anybody has done a competitive contract proposal for grant writing, and just basically copy what they did rather than reinventing the wheel.
Okay.
But it will take a little bit of time.
Next thing on my thing was the 2018 road program. Have we identified, as the engineer, Mr. Mayor, or DMF supervisor or superintendent, identified the roads for 2018 at this time?
The engineer sent me and Mary Ann around 3:30 today a preliminary of the roads that he thinks should be done. I apologize, I meant to print them and bring them here. Totally forgot, since he didn't send them till 3:30, it just fell off my radar. I don't know, Mary Ann, if you can go
I
for
never
print a
got
few
it.
copies? Oh, you didn't even get it?
He didn't send it to me.
Oh, okay. Well, he's due here, and I also asked him to bring copies.
Can you forward them to us tomorrow?
Oh, of course. Yep.
I don't have them, so he'll forward
Yeah.
them to me as well.
My next thing is have the doors been ordered for the building?
Yes, what happened was, we became aware of a contractor who's actually doing the tax window, it's in there. And we solicited a quote from him because he tends to be very, very reasonably priced. Another no-show. So just today issued the purchase order for the police department doors. We cannot expand the scope for beyond that at this time without getting certain pay-to-play documents from the contractor, and prevailing wage will have to be paid once we do the other doors and everything else. So,
So right now, we're only doing the police doors, we're not doing
yes,
all
that's
the
the only
doors
thing
yet?
we can do right now until we get those documents in hand. So rather than hold up the police department doors, we're gonna go forward with that.
Okay, the flooring is moving along on the first, second, and third floors?
Yes, I mean, do you see it on the,
Yeah,
on the
I just wanna
tracker?
make sure, yeah.
Yes, no, we're doing it in a phased-in approach. We're doing, the material's been ordered. The plan is hopefully to start after Memorial Day, sorry, and continue through July 4th. He did say that a lot of schools really urge him to come and do their projects during the summer when the kids are out of the building. So the full scope of the project probably will not be done until September. But we're getting most of it done. And in fact, the basements both have to be tested for humidity. The pricing he gave me may change depending on the results of those tests.
Okay.
And we're gonna do some painting, the painting beforehand, obviously.
Next thing on the agenda is the bus huts.
I'm sorry, may I ask a,
Oh, sure, Mr. Bruno, I'm sorry.
on the QPA, Mary Ann?
Yes,
Seeking QPA and gap between expiration and exam date. Are you QPA'd yet?
no, the exam is offered twice a year. So I didn't have the courses in before the last test, and I'll be done with my last course in 3 weeks, and the exam is in June. So my second year ends this Saturday. So I reached out to our former administrator, Matt Cavallo, to see if he would be interested. I think he is. We're just trying to figure out what the compensation will be.
And the audit is due when?
End of June. They're ahead of the schedule from last year. Last year, they were still working in June. They basically wrapped up for the most part, their audit. We made a progress payment to them, and I believe they have just a few items. I think they needed to talk to Ashley about some things from the tax office. Ashley is on vacation right now, so they're coming back when she's back.
And the planning zoning board secretary?
We've split the position because of the difficulty we were having retaining people. The recording secretary position is going to be a woman who actually is the same person who's going to be the new recreation superintendent, a woman named Gloria Weisner. She has been the director of recreation for Old Tapan for, I don't know, I'd say around 5 years, give or take. I don't have her resume in front of me. And actually, she had reached out and put her hat in the ring for the recording secretary position. And then when I was talking to her and we had the opening all of a sudden, I decided to explore that, and she came highly recommended by the administrator in Old Tappan. She starts the recreation position on Wednesday. So she's familiar with Community Pass in Edmonds and dealing with vendors and requests and quotes and background checks. She secures them for all her coaches, so in Old Tappan. So it'll be nice to have somebody coming in who's experienced and can hit the ground running.
Okay. And Peter, do you know where we are with the past minutes from years ago? If we caught up or trying to catch up, or we're going to send them out?
I can tell you.
Okay,
If you don't mind.
Mary Ann,
No,
I
Vince-
mean, I think I have the same thing, but go ahead, no.
What happened was, we had authorized Vince to work extra hours, the one who just resigned, and he got caught up, I think, till 2016. I'm not aware of ones before then. I do know he got most of the planning board ones done, and we're looking to get the zoning board minutes done as well.
So what year are you up to?
I have to check, but I think he got a fair amount done before he even started working here in 2016.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mary Ann, but he's agreed to do the minutes where he was in on the meetings.
No,
Oh, I thought he did.
that wasn't part of
No.
his pay.
Oh,
No.
okay.
I'll have to talk to him about that if that's something we want to explore.
I think that would be better since he was in the meetings.
Sure.
If he has extra time to do the minutes.
Anything else, gentlemen, on the project tracker?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Holmes.
The intersection, we were provided an update that the CAD drawings were submitted. It'll take a few weeks or a couple of months to have them overlaid and the results provided. The next step after that is the acquisition.
Of property.
So do we have a plan, and who would normally undertake that negotiation and discussion? Would that be the mayor and you,
What's that?
Mr. Pollard?
It would be the appraiser, Mr. Pollard.
The appraiser, Mr. Pollard? Okay. And is there anything we need to do in advance to prepare for that, other than just waiting for that drawing to come back?
Well, we gotta identify the properties. and-
Correct.
and
No,
kinda go
understood.
through- Yeah,
But aside from that,
Well, we gotta see what that looks like in terms of the measurements and value and.
The appraiser's got to,
yeah.
has to assign a value
Yeah,
to
so
the property that we need to acquire. And then Mr. Pollard and the appraiser will need to negotiate a fair price for that property.
We just did the major step tonight, is appropriating $400,000. That's a huge step that, is in our ballpark. So-
understood. Okay, that was it.
Anything else, gentlemen, on the project tracker? We went through the second item, 2018 road program street list. The mayor will send us a copy of that as soon as it's available.
Yes, tomorrow.
The third thing is the bus huts. I was happy to see that the bus huts were cleaned up. However, the roof was not repaired, Mr. Mayor, at the one near the Parkway. I believe Mr. Scuderi is waiting to get a purchase order to go buy the shingles, but he was held off because somebody said we may replace it in kind, and I thought we were just going to repair them for the time being and put the roof back on. This is the bus hut by the Parkway.
So I don't know if Peter has an update on something tactical in terms of just repairing the roof, but I had reached out to Peter after the last meeting and indicated that I'd be happy to work with New Jersey Transit to understand their bus hut program. And Bernadette contacted New Jersey Transit, and I heard from a Mr. DeMoro, who provided quite a bit of information. I do need to clarify a couple of, I have a couple of questions with the information he provided, specifically around putting a bus hut in at Washington and Pascack if we plan to do some redevelopment there. But they certainly, New Jersey Transit, as you've stated, certainly do provide for the hut. They will put in the pad, so it's really a turnkey as long as we will agree to maintain it.
Correct.
So long-term, in working with Peter, we have that working, but I don't know if in the short term, there's a repair considered on that hut by Garden State?
Yes, I just became aware of it today that the work wasn't being done. Bill was out today, but I want to reach out to him tomorrow to give him the okay to proceed, because anything we do new is going to happen overnight. And
It's a minuscule amount. The roof just needs to be
Right.
reshingled with cedar shingle.
Yep.
So at this, it has been cleaned up. It looks clean, right, Mr. Bruno? It has been cleaned up?
A little better.
Yeah,
I'd like it, I mean, if they, last time when they did it, they actually painted everything inside. I don't know if they can put a fresh coat of paint in there.
yeah,
because it was
it's small
horrible
enough.
before.
I hope they'll do that all at once.
Yes, Marion.
I just wanted to explain that I mentioned to Bill that we were exploring, and I misunderstood. I didn't realize that it was so bad that it had to be done right away.
Yeah, it's
I
missing.
figured, why would we spend money if we could replace them, but I didn't realize that it needed to get done, so I'll talk to him tomorrow about it.
Okay. If we could, just have them take a look at the one by the corner of Washington and Pascal
Sure.
to see if it needs a
With the
little.
speed of government, I don't anticipate it happening quick, so.
That's why I said
Right.
we should repair the roof, because it's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
We already discussed item number 4, the firehouse progress report. We should be getting something soon on that. Intersection progress has been discussed already. The next thing on our agenda is with the administration is the Red House. Have we made any headway on that, Mr. Mayor?
Again, like I said, either the last meeting or the one before that, with the fire department plans due to us sometime this month, I don't want to do anything on the Red House. I want to incorporate it into a long-term with the firehouse and, see where it goes. So again, I asked for another 30 days on that, so hopefully we have a more long-term plan. for
Commuter
that
parking,
property.
you said we would discuss in
Enclosed, please.
enclosed?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
The Quest has been discussed. Does anybody else have any other questions for Quest at this time? Mr. Bruno, Mr. Allen, Mr.
No.
Massey, Mr.
No.
Clement?
Are they owed any money at this time? Do we know?
Hopefully a lot.
I'm sure the analytical report's gonna cost us
Oh,
money.
yeah, I'm sure we owe them money for what they did. I don't know what they billed, but I'm sure we owe them money.
Yeah, the analytical.
I don't know what the numbers are. I don't know what they billed.
Have we received the bill for their latest work?
Have they?
It just happened last Thursday.
Mary,
So
Mary.
I guess prior to
We
that,
haven't received any bills
We
from
haven't-
Quest
Do we
just
know-
yet, right?
No,
Quest,
no.
nothing, no,
No.
nothing yet.
prior to that work, were their payments current?
I believe so, right, Mary? We didn't owe Quest anything, right?
No,
Okay,
we've paid whatever has been billed.
okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I just found the email from Paul in my spam, so that's why I'm just trying to read that about the road program. So he did send it to me as well.
The next item on our agenda is the labor attorney recommendations.
I spent a considerable amount of time considering the different attorneys, and I've kind of narrowed it down, so I'll probably have a name for you by next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
Ken, would it be possible to not wait till the next meeting and get the name and number, so maybe we can, I'd like to just have a conversation also and do a quick interview,
Quick interview with who?
whomever it is you're recommending.
Well, the selection is, I select who the labor lawyer is.
The council has nothing to do with it? I thought the council would take a straw poll and select.
No, it's the, if you take a look at the way council, special counsel are, it's I select who it is, like I did with the bonding attorney, with the with the approval of the mayor, but it's my selection, but I have two very able candidates who I'm considering, but I wanted to get one extra piece of material, so I don't want to talk about it tonight, but I will talk about it. It's about the PBA contract, so that's not imminent. So I think waiting till the 21st should be okay.
Okay, so I had spoken to someone just to see, so I should have him contact you?
Sure.
Anything else on that, gentlemen? Municipal complex repairs, we've discussed already in the project tracker. Under the council, current
Just,
business.
excuse me.
Oh, sorry, Mr.
Just item C, is that something other than the door?
Yes.
Yes.
There's
The
something.
police department, no, it's the police department doors not being able to lock it.
No, the employee
No,
security.
Yes.
Oh,
Is there something over and above that?
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll
it was a
put it
memo,
on.
it was a memo that we received from the chief last year, regarding employee security in the municipal building, in terms of what needed to be done for their safety. Chief sent the letter with Captain Hackbarth in terms of some issues
Yes, okay.
and what needed to be done, and we had a closed meeting on it. So I don't know if anything's
Well, if
been
we talked
done.
about it before and closed, maybe we should do it then because it's a security issue.
Yeah, I don't know if anything's been done or not.
I'll ask if he can find it and redistribute it to us since it goes back to last year.
You have it, Bob? You have that letter?
Yeah, Madam Mayor sent it to us.
Okay.
He sent it to Madam Mayor, she sent it to us, so.
Okay.
But you could ask the chief, he'll send it back again.
Okay.
He and Captain Hackbarth did something.
Anything else, gentlemen, on that? Moving on, item 1, other options, other form of government. Mr. Bruno, I think we entertained that we discussed.
Yeah, I think there was
Mrs.
something
Plantamore.
written in one of the correspondence, so that's
Okay.
fine.
Under ordinances and legislation, I put on social media. I know we don't have any ordinance, Mr. Poller, regarding social media, and I know some of our neighbors to the west of us have gotten in trouble with their council and their mayor taking stances on social media and getting themselves into a lot of trouble by blocking people and so forth. So I thought maybe we could be a little proactive instead of reactive with having some kind of social media policy for the council and the mayor and employees of the township.
Well, shouldn't that come out under your employee handbook possibly?
It is in it, and you guys haven't gotten copies yet because we were revising the background check policy. I'll get you the current version that hasn't been revised yet.
It has a
There's an
policy.
extensive social media policy.
Okay, I have not seen it, and I just,
I'll get that to
from
you.
reading the newspaper, what's happening in our towns west of us, it's becoming a real litigious process for them, and they're spending a lot of money
I
defending themselves.
don't think that's an ordinance or legislation issue, to be quite honest with you.
They've passed ordinances on it
Well,
Mr.
they-
Fowler?
for the council.
Yeah, I mean, they could have passed
Yeah.
ordinances, but we passed, so people are passing ordinances for a lot of things
Correct.
that.
I know, I'm
don't
just,
mean anything.
I wanted
it's-
to,
it
so
doesn't-
if
yeah,
it's in our,
enforceable.
Yeah, I mean,
if
not
it's in our
enforceable.
handbook,
Yeah.
if it's in our handbook, then that's
Then we're
fine,
good,
I just
yeah.
didn't
I
know.
mean, there are definitely issues coming up when, when people start using their social media to conduct town business.
Correct.
To comment on town issues.
And then blocking people from commenting.
It becomes issues. On the other hand, there is some privacy issues too in terms of people just having accounts and just expressing views and stuff like that, and a line being drawn. On top of that, you have Oprah superimposed on that, and could something be, a governmental record
Yes.
based on the fact that there's communication,
But if it's in the handbook,
But the handbook, I think, is the way to go, really.
Oh, I just didn't know it was there. I have
definitely
not
think
seen the
yeah,
handbook.
yeah,
I just wanted to make
I think
sure
it is
it's
a policy issue more than anything else.
Do we have a list of official Township of Washington's social media accounts?
Do you know that offhand?
I don't know that there are any,
Yeah.
other than the police department.
Other than the websites, I don't know that there's any official Facebook pages or
There isn't.
anything like that.
You mean the domain names?
No, if there is a Facebook page, a Twitter account, those are the two I would think of that represent or are owned by the township, and
You
they're
would need-
maintained.
You would need domain names. We need to own the domain names for them. So Instagram, if you did
You know,
Twitter at
hashtag at
Washington
the Township
Township,
of Washington?
we'd have to own that.
Like a hashtag at the Township of Washington or something like that?
We don't have any Twitter.
TWIP of Washington.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, I guess, to the first step in distinguishing a public comment or a township comment and someone's private thoughts would be identifying which are owned by the town and purport to represent the town. So if it's only the police department, and someone gets on and posts something or says something, I think that would be the first step in identifying where we cross the line, if we do, or if someone does.
Yeah, I guess we need definition to whether a website is considered social media, where it's, because the fire, police, ambulance all have their own web pages, but I don't know if that's social media as opposed to
They have Twitter
Facebook,
accounts, though.
Twitter, things like
The
that.
police have a Twitter account, correct?
I don't know. Yes.
So
Okay, I wasn't even aware they did.
It's becoming a huge problem because in some of these towns I'm talking, if you read the Bergen Record about it, you know, individual council and mayors have been brought up on charges because even though they're in their personal account, they're acting as a council or the mayor in the, not you, Mr. Mayor, but
Okay.
just in those towns, they're acting and then they're blocking people and now they're being sued because they're saying that they're being denied their right even though it's their personal Facebook account. And I just want to make sure we're covered because it's become a real issue, that's all.
But we would have to own the domain.
Even if you
name.
don't own it, Mr. Bruno.
No, I'm saying if we don't own it, that's a different issue.
No, but if you started Mr. Councilman Bruno Facebook page, and you're saying you're Councilman Bruno on it, it is now a township page.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying if there is real township stuff out there on the domain that we don't own, that's another problem.
And for full disclosure, I have one. I don't want to give out its address because I'm not here to publicize it.
I'm not bringing
but
up-
for full disclosure, I just want everyone to know that I do have one.
For full disclosure, I don't have to know how to use any social media, so you don't have to worry about me. As you know, I barely read
You're
my
quite
emails, so I'm okay. That's why I have daughters. I don't have tech support.
Anything else, gentlemen, on that? Moving on, Municipal Humane Law Enforcement Officer. Sue?
This is something that was brought to my attention through Chief Hooper, who attended a Chiefs meeting beginning of last week, at the end of the week before, and we started speaking about it. They want to send some police officers for training. However, they haven't set up the training date yet. They haven't set up the location yet. And yet they wanted to go into effect May 1st. So we both kind of looked at each other and said, well, let's see what we got. One of the other chiefs in a local department had sent over some information because they had already done a release with Tyco Animal Control, who fits the qualifications of a law enforcement, municipal humane law enforcement officer. She does it in a number of towns, so we got a release from them to pass on to Carol, who came in and signed a release as well. There were some samples from, I believe it was Hohokus, and what was the other one, Ken, I sent you? Walbrook?
Yeah, one other town, yeah.
Another town, Glenrock.
Glenrock.
So we sent them over to Ken to take a look at, to make some recommendations for you as a council. One had, I believe, carrying the guns, another one did not.
yeah,
Carol has said she does not want to carry a gun, that she feels is not her place. So Ken is going to work on it and present a draft, hopefully, maybe next meeting?
Yeah, well, actually, what I did do is I did some research on it, and I also contacted the chief and had some preliminary discussions with him. Talked about who should be the officer, and he wants to appoint the 3 people at Tyco because they're qualified already.
And that was the sample ordinance, that was...
No,
the 3 names that they did.
The ordinances, I look at those ordinances, I don't really care for that too much. I actually drafted up my own ordinance, and I sent it to the chief to take a look at.
But it was those 3 names that...
Oh, the names, not the ordinance. The ordinance sets up
so
what the duties of the office is, where it would be in the table of organization, things of that nature would come under the police department, the public safety. And I actually put an option in there for carrying a firearm. He wrote back that he would recommend that we take that out and not let them carry a firearm, even though there's a requirement that they have certain training and things of that nature. So based on his recommendation, I will take that section out, and you'll have it for the next meeting, you know, to look at. Now, to be honest, and Sue will tell you this, I mean, they didn't give us too much notice to get this, like, she sent it to me, she says, we got this, yada, 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 it's going into effect, it's going to May 1st.
May 1st,
Am I right?
Yes, yes. And the cost, one of the things Mary Ann had a concern with was what would be the cost for this person or persons to do this duty. And I right away called Carol at Tyco and said, by the way, most important question, how much? And it would basically just be the cost as if she came out to do an emergency. You know, I believe it's $60
When she comes out for animal
if she had to come
control.
out for that.
Okay.
Yes.
And just one other thing on that. I got a memo from Chief Hooper listing the 3 people's names at Tyco who would be doing it, and he certified that a full background investigation was conducted with each person, and they came out just fine.
Okay. Anything else, gentlemen, on humane officer? I kind of regurgitating the indemnification ordinance. if we could all just take a look at it, and maybe we could have some discussion at the next council meeting. Sue included in your packet a copy of the one that was passed but vetoed by the former mayor. If we just take a look at it and maybe have some discussion at the next meeting. You've already, that was your ordinance.
I know that ordinance
Yeah,
quite well,
so-
and the background of it, so.
So if we just review it, maybe we'll have some discussion for the next meeting. Next thing is retail marijuana stores. Mr. Bruno?
Well, I think we've had this on for a couple of meetings now, and I think, actually, even according to what this woman who came up and had questions as to what Ken was going to look at as to what we cannot do, and what our options were from a legal standpoint. At that time, he said it was new to him, so he was going to research it.
I mean, there are some ordinances, you know, you could, but I think at the last meeting, if you remember, as Mr. Ullman brought up, there was a question of whether you actually want to even get involved in prohibiting these stores. It was an issue to be discussed, so, I
Yes.
mean, that really, it comes down to that. Do you want it banned? Do you want it regulated? It's a decision you have to make, and, you know, I can certainly get an ordinance that says that it's prohibited.
But it hasn't, we really don't know because it hasn't been challenged yet, 'cause it's not a law that has passed.
Right,
So you'll
exactly.
know,
Yeah,
it'll
right.
be a test case.
Yeah, well, here's
essence.
the problem with all of these kind of things when it's new. And that is, so it's always a timing issue. So if you, right now you could say, geez, it hasn't even made legal to begin with, may never become legal. Do we really have to do this? Okay, that's one approach. On the other hand, now you got this
Can't do
vape.
it after. You can't
Yeah,
do it
now you got
afterwards.
the vape issue where all of a sudden that is an application that's pending. And the horse is out of the barn on that to a certain extent, so.
Gentlemen, can we take a quick straw poll of who's in favor of having Mr. Pollard look at our surrounding communities? I know Hasbrook Heights passed a retail marijuana ordinance banning them, so there are
Yeah.
many municipalities in Bergen
Yeah.
County that have passed it. Can we just take a quick,
I'd like to look at it.
I'd like to
myself.
look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought maybe I misunderstood.
Well, we
Ken,
did get
but
a gentleman's
I thought
agreement.
that Ken was going to come back with, look at it, I guess, from a legal standpoint, what options we had, so
I think, Mr. Bruno, I think we came back, the mayor had spoken to the owner of the shopping center and got an agreement that he would not rent to
That was
retail
also part of the
marijuana
discussion,
stores.
yes.
But at this point, if the center does change hands, I'd rather be proactive about it than reactive in case it does change hands and the new owner says, well, I didn't make that agreement, you know, the old one did. So I'd like to visit it. I'm not saying I'm in favor or against it, but I'd like to see our options.
I mean, I would say if you have an agreement that's not in writing, it's not worth anything. So
Well, that's why I'm not, you know, so I'd like to visit it. Mr. Cumming, you in favor?
Yes, please.
Mr. Bruno, you're in favor?
Yeah,
Mr. Allman?
thought we were.
I'm in favor of understanding what our options are.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not
Okay.
saying, you don't have to vote, I'm not asking for your vote.
Okay.
I'd just like Mr. Pollard to get a straw poll to say, yes, we'd like to at least review our options and what our ordinances would look like.
I mean, when-
What our ordinance would look like, not our ordinances.
Well, here's the thing, let's not make this so general, because I'm really not one of these people to say, come up with something, and then everybody has 12 different opinions. I mean, I'd like to have it to some direction. A, do you want an absolute prohibition? B, do you want to have a prohibition of proximity to schools, churches, public shopping places? I mean, you know what I'm saying? I
In
mean,
reviewing the proximity one, I love the quarter mile of proximity because
it's-
everywhere in town is covered and we're not saying no to anybody. Because the quarter mile sets it that you have the library, you have the high school, you have George School, you have Washington School, you have the houses of worship. So everywhere in town pretty much, and everywhere, and the rest of the town is residential, so you can't open it there. So I'm in favor of the quarter mile. I don't know what everybody else is.
But I'm just saying, you know, for this kind of thing, it's a pretty, you know, it's a design thing, and so I need to know what you want to accomplish. So-
I would be in favor of a quarter mile from any house of worship, school, playground, field.
Let me ask you this question, are we talking about vape shop and all the paraphernalia?
No,
You're
no,
talking
no,
just
no, no, no,
you're
no,
talking
no,
just
no, no,
marijuana?
marijuana, just
Okay, because it's very difficult to, you have a place of business, and to tell them what type of products you can and cannot sell, when it's incorporated in there. That's the issue.
Well, we're saying you cannot sell,
Just
you cannot have a
marijuana.
legal marijuana dispensary within a quarter mile of any playground, school, house of worship, stuff like that.
And just going back to what Mrs. Ritter said, I think she was also concerned about paraphernalia and vape shops in general. That was my
Okay, well,
take.
I don't want to discuss
no,
that
no,
this
she
time.
said that, but we're
Right.
talking about two different issues.
I
here.
understand.
Because there is a vape shop application
I understand.
in the shopping center. And you passing an ordinance now.
You couldn't do it.
It's not
I
gonna,
understand.
it's not
It's not
gonna
gonna fly.
affect, not gonna fly.
I don't even want to discuss it because I don't want to be
Yeah,
on
yeah,
record, so I
exactly.
think we
So-
should stop.
so-
I'm in favor of a quarter mile for retail marijuana.
And by the way, not that the
dispensary.
vape thing isn't an issue, because particularly with what she's talking about, one of the.
He could end up wanting to become and then that
Yeah,
would change his
exactly,
application.
that would be a particular
So now
product.
is the
Yeah,
time to
that's-
test.
That's what I'm trying
Yeah,
to
but as
address.
far as some of the other activities, you're not gonna be able to.
No, we're not going to be able to limit that.
Although in terms of an approval, you certainly could regulate or put prohibitions to smoking on premises, smoking outside in front, trying to limit and prescribe certain conduct. In other
Absolutely.
words, selling a legal product is one thing, but you gotta take it
Consuming it
somewhere
somewhere
else,
else,
Yeah,
using
you
it.
can't consume it there. I think that's the way we want to go.
So.
I want to go at least.
Yeah.
I'm like,
And Ken, could we include things like vaping and things like that, even if this current applicant got grandfathered in to say, hey, no others can after?
Well, you could do it, you could pass an ordinance.
I'd like to see it all encompassing as
Again,
much as we
you
can.
can do a consumption thing where you can sell, but you can't utilize it within.
Yeah,
the
I'd just like to
radius.
see the vaping as part of it, even if this person is grandfathered in.
I understand.
And-
Okay.
So are we going to outlaw the sale of cigarettes?
I didn't go there. I was just talking
Well,
about.
I'm going there because, I think that we are heading down a slippery slope, okay? I understand, there is a concern by parents, and I understand that concern, and I appreciate that concern. At the same time, the language that was used as a concern about vaping could be used about cigarettes.
Anything.
Could be used about alcohol.
Could be anything.
I mean, it could be used, just take a look at the school when all the kids walking out. And, I'm a poster child for it. Obesity, are we gonna, start low-fat, prohibition of high-fat foods, fast foods? I mean, we are heading down a slope, and I think we should be careful about what we talk about and what we prohibit, because I think we are treading on people's ability to run a business, have commerce, make money, and, it's a concern of mine.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
So
So you got some
I'm
guidance?
all for, if we want to explore,
As clear as mud.
if we want to explore retail marijuana, are we going to, to give a construct to Ken, is it recreational dispensaries, is it medical dispensaries?
I was gonna ask that too, about
Is it,
differentiation between.
Am I gonna take that home?
so
Like,
I do think.
I just feel that in our little township of
you can
Washington,
write all you want.
I don't have any issue if you want to have legal prescribed marijuana. I do not feel there is a need to have a medical dispensary in the township of Washington when there's, the city of Montclair has one. Large urban cities have legal medical marijuana dispensaries. I personally feel there is no need for somebody to open one in the township of Washington. And I don't mean to derive them of their livelihood, but there's larger cities than the township of Washington with 9,000 residents, or whatever the exact number is, needs to have a medical dispensary in a town. Whether it's recreational or legal, I don't think it's something we need in our small town. And I think the last setting is in our small little shopping center. I think it just sends the wrong message, and That's my opinion, Mr.
Okay.
Ullman. You know,
I tend to agree with that, Michael, and, you know, if it's for medical use, let Rite Aid sell it.
Well,
If it's a prescription for marijuana.
there's large urban legal medical dispensaries in large urban cities, and everybody has no issue with those there.
Yeah,
And
and I say
think
that
to
because I know
open up-
Rite Aid won't.
To open up a legal medical marijuana in Township of Washington, there's no need for it.
Correct.
And are we gonna
And I feel bad for the people that need it in our town and have to travel the different distances to get it. But unfortunately, in our small community, we can't handle that kind of business. This is my feeling.
Are we going to prevent the delivery of it within the township?
You can't. How could you do that?
No,
Well, 'cause they-
well,
well, they
if you're delivering it to a-
legalized the delivery in New York State, so you can.
Again, I said-
Dispensaries can deliver it to your home. Are we against the sale of marijuana? Or are we against a retail setting?
This is for a retail setting, Mr. Ullman. I have no
Okay.
problem if somebody is on there, is sick, that they have a legal marijuana need, that they can, and the law changes in New Jersey to have it delivered to their home, and they're having it delivered legally, and it's not in an environment of our little township shopping center where there's a 10-foot sidewalk, and, you know, there's gonna be a guard standing out at the front door checking your ID card. I just don't feel it's the right place for it.
Okay.
You know, on the streets of Montclair, it works. I just don't see it.
Okay.
Okay, can we just go down the line and get everybody's input on that part? You got thoughts on it?
I hope you'll explore the possibility of writing a really strong ordinance. I share, let me finish now. You asked me, I'm finishing.
Yeah.
I share Mr. DeSena's opinions in big, bold exclamation points. It's not in our town.
Okay. Mr. Bruno?
Thank you.
I just would love to understand the whole legality of everything, that's all.
The whole legality is that...
No, I mean, just, that you asked me, I'm just saying, if we can get something that says this is what you can, if you do an ordinance, here's what to expect, don't expect, if you try and fight it, this is what your options will be, can't be. You're gonna get pushback, I think, to what Mike is saying, Mike Ullman is basically saying, hey, we might go against it, but what are the ramifications? So that's what I just wanna see the whole picture, that's all.
Well, I don't think you're gonna be able to have those ramifications yet, Mr. Bruno, because the law hasn't been
It's not
enacted.
legal.
I'm just
That's
giving
not
you,
legal.
I'm just giving you my comment, that's all, whatever it
Medical
is.
or recreational distribution for me.
That
Med-
is
medical,
okay.
recreational.
Medical's okay. Medical's okay?
No
No.
medical, no.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay, just nothing.
Nothing.
And if we could go to Mr. Ullman's point of home deliveries in a legal fashion,
That wouldn't be
is-
good. That would
would
be-
not be prohibited.
no.
It's to open up an establishment,
Talking
a
about
storefront, a retail environment, yes,
Yeah, okay.
within a quarter mile of any of our schools, parks.
So
Churches,
just
so-
to be clear, Mike, is the quarter mile a tactic to get to the end result, or you do not want any sale in town? Is that the goal?
I've looked at the other ordinances that other towns have written, and to identify certain location kind of pins us down. Like if we just say at the Washington Town Center, and then somebody across the street by Italian Touch wants to rent the flower shop and put one there. Well, then you could open it there because we didn't include it in our ordinance. So if you make it the quarter mile radius, it kind of becomes a zone, that limits your, we don't have much commercial development. It kind of, to me, sets a great point. That's just my take on the ones I've read.
Okay.
Mr. Paulo, would you agree that would be a course of action based on the other ones you've seen?
Well,
also?
I would say this, you might have better chance of success because an outright ban of a legal product may be superseded by the state law that allows it. Where on the other hand, planning and zoning of restriction due
It's a quarter mile radius.
to distances is a better way of approaching a problem.
Mike, I look at it as Nancy Reagan's drug-free school zone. That was one of the greatest things ever done because it made it within 1,000 feet of a school. And most towns have schools all over the place. So when you start adding up those 1,000 feet, most of your town was covered. And it's a similar tact that I saw that I thought worked. Again, it's just my opinions.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, for
Mr.
what it's-
Cascio, I'm sorry, Mr. Cascio, you had to give
Yeah,
Mr. Polly.
I did, and again, I'm never one to limit commerce, okay? And I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Ullman. I think that's a bad thing for the township. I think it's a bad thing for the state of New Jersey and the country. But again, there's a health issue involved with it, and a public safety issue, in my opinion. So I would tend to agree that this tactical method that Mr. DeSena talked about would probably do well in the Township of Washington. And that's where I'll go with that.
If it's okay, I'd just like to ask the mayor for his input.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I would look forward to signing an ordinance as strict as we can, as the council would choose to make it. I would look forward to signing that into law immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on, recreation fee disparity, Mr. Bruno.
Yeah, last year, I think it was last year, we received the rec fee ordinance, I guess, or I'm not sure what it was, but something we had to approve for all the fees in each of the programs. Are we gonna see anything like that, and versus the expense and revenue and where we're losing spending for each program?
Is that directed
I guess
to me?
Mary Ann.
Well, you guys do ordinances.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year when you were referring to, Bob, we also got the cost breakdown as best could be determined for each program. And yeah, as a council, I consider that a living, breathing ordinance that should be addressed every year or two to see, the cost staying in line with what we charge for each
I
program.
guess once
So-
the new recreation person is in place, can that be one of her?
Well, actually, you
Or do
guys
we have
have
it already?
all of the information, but if you wanted,
I guess we need current, more
I think for
current.
those that weren't here, maybe.
nobody even part of the budget process, they know all the costs.
I don't think it was as detailed as what was previously
Yeah, I
supplied to us.
think it was very generic and
Yeah.
kind of,
We kind of went off last year's numbers in each department. I think that's what we had. And I think Bob's looking at how it works out in the end. What did we spend? How much do we?
yeah, I guess what the
Just take
final
in the
2017 numbers were versus what.
final approach. So,
And then what we added in 18, that was, above and beyond 17 actuals.
Yes.
Yep.
And just in connection with that, when the council's looking at that, I'd like to also include exploring having a separate bank account, for lack of a better word, for the rec program, and that way, if things are getting overcharged, it doesn't go into town surplus, but goes into a dedicated rec fund that would help the rec programs in future years if we're taking in more than the cost.
well, we talked about at budget time, a trust account for each activity. And I think, you talk about one activity subsidizing another one, and I think it's a good idea to have an overall account, but keep each one separate, so if you had an expense of $100,000 with lacrosse, and you had an over budget, next year you don't have to fund that much. If you had an under or an over somewhere else, you can kind of adjust it that way.
Correct, I have no
Because-
problem with each program, I just thought it'd be
Yeah.
quicker unless we can do that relatively quick to
I don't
say,
think it's hard to
anything
do.
that comes into rec should be spent on rec, and then we can get down to the brass tacks of each program, but yeah, I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, again, if my kid's playing lacrosse and we got more money than we need, and they have a deficit in football, why should I be charged more than someone else? That's all.
Yeah, as long as, and I agree, as long as we don't try and nickel and dime it to the exact penny, but.
No, you're never gonna
But
be
keep
able to
it
get
as close as
Yeah.
possible,
Yeah,
that's all.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I think you need Ashley's input on how
Yeah, I
the accounts
agree.
are set up.
That would be my comment, to make sure, because we keep getting written up for not reconciling these accounts, so we don't want that happening. So she'd be the best judge of how to set it up if we do.
Next on our agenda is a list of all financials, list of all open POs, and council check payment review.
To my knowledge, there are no open POs.
Well, there always are open POs.
Well, open for any length of time, is that a fair statement?
No, I think what we did as part of, I've reviewed open POs and closed out what I could determine what should be closed out. There are ones that are open from a while ago in connection with some engineering fees, but I don't have the knowledge to know whether they're should be paid. I tried to close out, for instance, you may, those of you who are on council, remember I closed out some open ones in connection with the DEP permit. There's other ones that have to be resolved with Mr. Azalina's office that go back a while. So, but they can't be closed, so they're to be
They're still
determined type thing. And that's okay, you can have old POs if they're, you know, if there's a basis, you're not sure if you're supposed to be paying them.
Is it possible to get a list of, so there, to your point, there's always going to be POs open at any point in time, current POs even. Is it possible to get a list of POs older than 90 days, 180 days? I don't know what that line is, but that may indicate there's more to it than just working through a bill or a minor dispute.
So like an aging report on these things?
You
I
can
mean, it
get
should
it
go
done,
back
but I
17
mean,
and back, minimum, right?
what's the goal?
Well,
To get the older ones closed out,
I mean, the auditors look at this stuff, so.
I mean, I believe that we should have these POs validated. I mean, if we owe monies, they should be paid
or closed.
or closed, yes. So,
Yeah, I think we should go back, like you said, I think we should take 17 and older and see what they are.
I mean, you know, again, 90 days, 180, whatever that number is, and if something is older than that, and
We should evaluate.
you know, and I don't know if the audit, you know, are they validating the legitimacy or the, you know, whether it's a valid PO to be open, or are they just reconciling that it's on a ledger? So,
This is, I mean, there is so much to clean up. We always, I can't even believe the projects that still exist after
How many
all we've been
cleaned up?
able to accomplish. And I mean, I killed me, everybody who walked in the building today, oh, what a beautiful day. I didn't get out of there from the time I walked in till I left tonight at 5:30. So, I mean, it just, there's a lot of stuff that can be done. I mean, like I said, I had to do it as part of the audit review.
Well, I think part of it is your CFO, obviously.
I was just going to chime in with that to say, now that the budget is passed and we have budgeted for a full-time, you know, I plan on advertising right away, and maybe when we hire someone, this can be one of the first things they tackle as part of their thing coming on board with us.
Yeah, I
We
mean,
can advertise in the League of Municipalities also for that project, for that position?
Absolutely. That's the
The
only
key, yeah,
place,
that's-
the
yeah.
only place to advertise.
Correct.
Otherwise, you're wasting your money.
Yes, exactly, so it's a great avenue to proceed.
I mean, when you ask what's the goal and what we want to accomplish, the reason I put it down was when we were doing the infamous grant receivable, and we were closing out ordinances, and we had several sets of numbers which were confusing. And then I think at one point you even said, Mary Ann, that you went back and looked and saw there were a bunch of old POs, so you closed them out, so the amount changed even, you know, different than what we had originally said, so.
Correct.
I mean, you know, when you start hearing that, then the question is, so what do we have that's open from 17 and prior? And that would be one thing to look at.
Yes, well, actually, just so you understand the financial implications, anything that's older than that, if it's not affecting, obviously, the current year budget. I mean, there could be situations where there's bills that, although, you know, now I think that, I think like one of the sewer bills, Hohokus, we haven't received the bill. You know, when they finally get around to billing us, that may need to be adjusted. But for the most part, I remember at the end of last year going through and kind of scratching my head going, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is still in the books. It was still open and I was closing things out. That was
I mean,
one
it's
of
an
the-
exposure to the town is what it is. Because if there's an open PO and it's due, like Mike said, is it valid? Do we owe people or we don't owe people? So this, you know, if someone says, hey, you gave me a purchase order for this item, you owe me money.
We're only being done by one person.
I don't know what it is. You know, again, I think the orders just say clean up your old purchase orders. I don't think they look at them. So that's an issue. I agree with you. So if we can see 17 and back, that would be great. That would be my suggestion. Peter, yes? Can we
Yeah, I
look
mean,
at
do
that?
we all agree that I mean, it's not the
Well,
best, but it should
Mary
wait
Ann's
for the new
saying, like, the whole
CFO to
hocus
come in?
is like the whole hocus issue is a liability for us because we know we owe them money.
No,
Even though-
but it's encumbered.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but
It's
are we
not,
gonna get hit with an interest payment because we have?
no, they haven't billed us.
They haven't
They
billed us.
know. In fact, we could argue that we don't have to pay them. Somebody at an administrator meeting just told me, if somebody doesn't bill them within a certain amount of time, it's not encumbered, they say, tough, you don't get paid.
Okay.
So Peter, to your point, I'm more than willing to wait until we have a full-time CFO to resolve these. To Mr. Bruno's point, if we could get a aging report of 17 and prior, just so we know the scope. Is it 3 POs or 50 POs?
I asked about that in almost the same language, and I was told Edmunds doesn't readily put that type of a report out, right, Mary Ann? Did I understand that correctly?
I'm trying to get it to go to Edmonds right now
Okay.
while I'm sitting here.
But I asked that same question to start a review, and that's what I was told at the time, is that Edmunds doesn't readily have a report that spits that out.
Well, they-
So I don't know what the alternative is, other than someone
Then I think we
going
should
through some detailed levels of accounting.
speak to someone who is perhaps more familiar with Edmunds, because an aging report of POs, I would think, is a
Me
standard.
also.
Not aging. They don't, it's not like,
Yeah.
it's not your normal,
But you don't have to age
because
it. The
your
point is a
budget-
list. Just give us a list.
Yeah, don't- you tell
Let's
me
not
open
get caught in
POs. You don't
semantics.
tell-
Just
I can do open
Give us a
POs.
list of 17 and prior of all POs. That's all we're asking for.
I can do open POs.
Yeah, it's got to be in the system.
It
It has to be in the system, otherwise you don't know what you have. Is that your new laptop, Mary Ann?
Yes, it is.
Wow, that's very nice.
We just got the connection here, that's what.
That's even nicer.
You're connected too, Sue?
No, I don't know if I'm connected, we got internet, but I don't think I haven't tried that.
So maybe you can just send in a list of POs when you have it in next week or so, Mary Ann?
Well, can you just give us time maybe to try to clean them up if there are any issues? Because I know one of them is the Azalina firm. I think those are the only ones that are open for the most part.
So by next council meeting or end of month?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem sharing that with the council.
Okay,
I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
We'll work on cleaning it up in tandem, but the
Yeah,
council should
okay.
know.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on, the council check payments review. That was Bob also.
well, that was, a question
Talked
that we
about it,
brought
yes.
up about whether we can somehow get, rather than look at everything that's been paid, to see what's going to be paid, and, because Mike DeSena, you had asked also,
Yes,
if we overspend in an area, we'd like to know before we spend it. So I don't know
Well-
if there's some procedure we can set up.
What do you mean overspend in an area?
Well,
Can't overspend a control line. It's impossible.
No, but you can move money around within the control total, right?
We don't move around. Yes, within the control, you can overspend a line, but that's
Right.
normal.
So the question is, if there's 3 lines and you overspend in one and you take from another, that's what we were trying to see. I mean, I don't, the real question is there a procedure that the council could look at what's gonna be paid before it gets paid? That's what it comes down to.
Like I said at the last meeting, or when those came up, I forget if it was the last meeting for sure, I'm happy to entertain anything as long as it doesn't unduly slow down us paying the more routine bills.
we're not looking at the public service bills, Mr. Mayor. We're
Right,
just looking
and
at
things like that, so, yeah.
anybody that is outside the Board of Public Utility, we don't,
Yeah.
it's all the other vendors.
Right.
And we're not looking to slow their payments down either, but sometimes, we're submitting, we're getting an invoice and it's paid the same week. I understand we'd like to pay our vendors in a timely manner, and there's been issues in the past.
Yeah.
But at least if we had some heads up of why,
I don't know if
You see it later
if
on.
you want to appoint someone on the council, or do it as, if someone would look at a couple of months of the paid bills and say, just give me guidance to say, all right, we want to look at this vendor.
Would you
and
like
or
to,
this dollar amount.
Mr.
If
Bruno,
it goes
would you-
over this
Yeah, make it
dollar.
do
Okay,
a
would you
dollar
mind
amount.
looking at it?
Yeah, I have no problem. I'll look at everything.
You gotta give Pete some guidance.
Well, you just said, Pete said
Yeah.
he's gonna get us a couple months of reports, and then Mr. Bruno and I will
Well,
look at it.
you have them already.
We
assuming
have them
you
already, so we can go through the ones we have, Mr. Bruno.
Right.
and- All right, is that okay, Mr.
That'd
Mayor?
be great.
Thank
A lot of those are recurring accounts in
Right.
an area, so you know where
Right.
it's traditionally overspent or underspent, or if there's an issue. Again, I don't care about the PSC&G bill, it's the
Yeah,
PSC&G bill.
Right, and like
You know,
office supplies,
you know,
maybe, things
when you
like
get stuff
that.
coming in from,
Yeah.
you know, let's just, and not picking anyone, the planner or whatever,
Right.
you know, that's the ones you want to look at.
Like a souvenir program?
All right, moving on, closed session, resolution number 18-213, closed session to discuss tax appeals, property acquisition, potential litigation co-op, commuter parking, and the Red House. Do I have a motion to enter into closed session?
Before we do that, can I add something?
Oh,
Is it possible to add something?
Go ahead, Mr. Ullman.
To close session.
To close session.
Oh, sure. What do you want?
Potential litigation, sports, or recreation department.
Okay.
Okay. So again, resolution number 18-213, closed session, tax appeals, property acquisition, potential litigation COA, commuter parking, the Red House, potential litigation in the rec department. Do I have a motion
So
to
moved.
enter into closed session?
So moved. Yes, second.
Councilman Bruno?
Yeah.
Councilman Casio?
Yes.
Councilman Cumming?
Yes.
Councilman Ullman?
Yes.
Council President DeSena?
Yes.